The book of Daniel is undoubtedly among the more exciting books in the Bible, and perhaps one of them with some of the greatest of lessons. And what these young men, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, all have their names changed to Belteshazzar, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They are captives, and their identities have been changed. They are the victims of genocide. They are survivors, but they're supposed to lay aside everything that they were brought up in order to make successful the kingdom of the conqueror who put to death most all of the people that these four young men are from. They have seen everything destroyed, and it would seem that all that God has promised is now nothing. And yet, they have decided to hold on to the identity that they had despite everything else. And we might not think much of the dietary laws from which we are free, and here they are. They decide to hold on to them as one thing that they can hold on to of their former life. One of the things that we need to remember of God's covenant with Abraham is that through Abraham's offspring, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. And so these four, now really enslaved to be servants to serve the king that conquered Israel, they actually fulfill God's promise because they're going to be a blessing, even though they have to be in opposition. And we might remember, if we were taught in Sunday school and Bible school about the bravery of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and we might have heard that they entrusted God to deliver them, but we leave out that very telling thing that they tell King Nebuchadnezzar, that even if their God does not deliver them, they still will not and will not have bowed down to this idol. And this, of course, enrages King Nebuchadnezzar. And Nebuchadnezzar goes overboard in that he has the furnace heated so that Nebuchadnezzar's own strongest mighty servants die to try and get these men into the blaze, and they go in the blaze. God is with them and delivers them, and Nebuchadnezzar realizes that, there is one God of heaven and earth, and it's not Nebuchadnezzar or what Nebuchadnezzar makes other people worship. We see also later on with Daniel and the lion's den. Here we have persons in government who are jealous and are going to entrap Daniel any way they can, and they find out the only way to entrap Daniel is by Daniel's service to Daniel's God. I'm sure we don't have any modern problem today where there are professionals in government that, because of self-interest and jealousy, go against good rule and good governance, against those who are in authority and against the will of those governed in order to advance themselves. I'm sure this is only an ancient problem. But again, Daniel gets delivered from the mouths of the lions because God is with him. Notice how the Persian king Darius has been out of shape with what the king has been tricked into to destroy his very best servant. And Darius is the first to find out if Daniel's still alive and has no hope, but Daniel is alive. And notice what happens to the conspirators. If you go against God and God's people, well, everything you're about will come to nothing. And though it's not God who brings about the wrath and judgment, it is the king of Persia that does it. Yet, nevertheless, we see that, yeah, those who are against God and God's people and God's reign will get the results of their vanity. There will be nothing left of them. Notice that even though these mighty things happen, there is still the problem of the nations of the earth following their own will and not God's. Notice also that, and particularly at towards the end of this reading, and before the lion's den, but the handwriting on the wall, King Belshazzar, who is the son of Nebuchadnezzar, offers rewards to Daniel to read the inscription by this mysterious hand that means that the kingdom is going to be overthrown that night. Daniel's not interested in any reward that King Belshazzar can give him. And in fact, notice in all these things, none of these young men are talked about as becoming wealthy or prosperous, but they do serve faithfully. And they become more than survivors. They become entrusted servants of the pagans that they are serving with because of God's blessing. So these are really important lessons, and I think we need to know and remember that even if governments and peoples are against us, we are still supposed to be faithful and show ourselves faithful to be a blessing to others, even those who are our oppressors. Would that we would have gotten all of that in our Sunday school and Bible school material. Please remember that these are really, look at all the harshness in these stories. And the little children who were raised up in this, none of the mistakes and none of the problems were ever hidden from them. It wasn't considered too sensitive for young ears. And yet the world is blessed by this witness of people who will do what is just and right in the face of every kind of danger. And even if they won't be delivered, at least they will not have taken part in the oppression of the tyrants and the governance of the people who are following only their own power and appetites. We need such servants and such leaders today. And I hope you're further encouraged by our readings in all the scriptures. Tell these stories especially. Thank you very much. God bless.